Hello and welcome back to Obas Trending Gist, your number one channel for insightful political analysis and trending stories from across Nigeria and beyond. Today we are diving deep into the recently concluded by-elections where the All Progressive Congress (APC) swept an impressive 12 constituencies. What does this mean for the political landscape? Is it a sign of what's to come in 2027? We have an exclusive clip from Arise News featuring Sumner Sambo, who breaks down the results with his expert analysis. Let us watch the first part of this insightful discussion. So sit back and take a watch.
Rufai.
Yeah. Sumner, we've been discussing the by-elections over the weekend. What's your take? What are your own observations?
Well, I'll just say that it's not unusual for the government parties, as I like to call them, to emerge winners. You would have seen that it's a distribution, actually, of winning strategy by the government parties that are in power at different parts of the country. So you'll see that except maybe for Adamawa State, where there was an upset where the APC actually defeated the PDP in that Ganye State constituency election, with Amadou Fintiri being defeated alongside Atiku Abubakar's ADC in court because he hasn't picked a membership card yet in the party, also being defeated. I think generally it's just a distribution of political patronage by these people who are in power. You go to Anambra State, for example, you discover that Abga swept the polls there. Go to Kano, yes, you'll see that there was that share. I mean, APC and NMPP sharing seats there. And then, of course, the bigger ones go to Edo State, the APC won there. And you go to Oyo State, Ibadan North Federal Constituency, for example, you will see that the PDP actually won the election, despite the projections that the APC was going to use its federal power to actually win the election. And there have been lots of calls on the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, to actually step aside, because this looks like what will happen in 2027 if the imposition of candidates continue and all of that. So it's just a matter of losers for me. I mean, who are those who lost out in these elections? Well, the major losers are people like Peter Obi, because, I mean, you had in his own state constituency election losing to the governing All Progressives Grand Alliance in that state. And you could see Governor Soludo making mockery of him, that it was like a sort of an alliance that had been a gang up against the ABGA, and despite that Peter Obi came and it was unclear whether it's Labour Party or ADC, ABGA defeated them by about 75% of the votes. And then you go to other areas like Edo State. Governor Monday Okpebolo seems to have, maintained his lead, trying to stamp his feet on the ground to ensure that it tallies with what happened during the last election, despite that PDP is saying that there have been lots of rigging and all of that. But the biggest losers, actually, in terms of political parties, are the ADC. I mean, look at what happened in Nasir El-Rufai's own state, Kaduna State. I mean, they were whipped seriously, both in Kajuru, in Sabon Gari, Zaria, and other places. So it's time for Nigerians to actually brace up to the reality. But what usually happens is that during this period of either rerun or off-cycle elections, the political parties actually bring all their strength together. It's just like what happens during off-season governorship election. All the governors will team together and bring resources, and of course they will marshal out their plan and hit whoever is coming. But when it gets to general elections, it's a different ballgame. But, well, APC must actually be given its flowers, despite the fact that the opposition is kicking in some areas. Nonetheless, it still showed its strengths in different places.
All right, I'm glad you talk about the APC and how this demonstrates their strengths in different places. I talked about earlier what the opposition party said, that if it was a fair playing ground, maybe it might not be so. And so I'd like you to evaluate perhaps the performance of INEC, looking ahead in terms of 2027 and future elections, whether or not the electoral reform of 2022 has had any major impact in our conduct of elections, whether or not INEC is ready to be an impartial, player in adjudicating elections in Nigeria. And then further that, I'd also like to talk about the second story with regards to former President Goodluck Jonathan's visit to IBB.
Well, what we've seen in these rerun elections and off-cycle elections is that, first of all, it's like a midterm assessment. It's a midterm election, if you have to call it that way in Nigeria. And it just gives us an insight into how 2027 is going to be like. We are not seeing innovations from INEC. INEC needs to bring up more innovations that will bring a lot of confidence to Nigerians. For example, take a look at what happened in that election in Kano, where you could see policemen with INEC officials, people, from the governing party in that state doling out 5,000 naira to people. And both the electoral officials the policemen and all of that. People were just there standing. In fact, some of them were being encouraged and all of that. And we wonder what exactly is happening. Where are the innovations we're supposed to see? And the National Assembly needs to be called to question here too. Where are those innovations that we need to bring in place to protect the elections, the integrity of the elections? If people can be given money directly within polling units, vote buying, outright vote buying without fear of security services or electoral officials, and people turning the other way around. And then, for example, you go to Kaduna where 25 million naira or so was being caught up with a PDP official and the APC too, being accused of using state power. But you having policemen or others and all of that. So what does this say ahead of 2027 election? Well, it actually says a lot about what people have been saying, that the APC wants to go into 2027 election without any major opposition, and it is ready to crush any opposition that comes in place. But there are some signals that the APC should actually see coming. Look at what happened, for example, in that Ibadan North Federal Constituency election. You see that despite all that was pushed into that place by the federal might, people still stood, the state government there stood, and they actually ensured that that was delivered.
Sumner Sambo raises some very crucial points here. He highlights that it's not unusual for the ruling party to have an advantage in by-elections, often due to what he calls political patronage. He points out specific examples from Adamawa, Anambra, and Kano, showing a mixed bag of results but an overall trend favoring the parties in power at the state levels. He also touches on the significant losses for some political heavyweights like Peter Obi, whose party lost in his home state. This suggests that local politics and the influence of state governors will play a massive role in these elections. The discussion around the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, and the call for his resignation after the PDP's victory in his constituency also points to high stakes and the potential for these by-elections to be a litmus test for the future political battles. Now, let's continue with the second part of this clip, where the conversation shifts to the conduct of the elections and the role of the INEC. Watch this.
Generally, the APC, the INEC, the police, and other institutions of state must ensure that the electoral integrity of this country is not called to further question if we go this way into the 2027 general election. For example, in Edo State, we saw the issues of beavers being affected and people losing confidence, because if you come out to vote and the machines are packing up, then it's a problem. Then, of course, what of IREV? We thought that by now the issues of IREV, posting of results and all of that would have been done easily. That ahead of 2027, there will be some sort of vote of confidence. But I can tell you that there may be a huge voter apathy in 2027 if we continue, especially with an incumbent, because people may feel powerless that the incumbent will use all the resources and state powers to actually crush both the opposition and voters, and so people won't come out.
What you said is very apt, Sumner. In fact, if no electoral reforms are made to make the use of IRES justiciable, let's forget about 2027 election when it comes to integrity. Because a lot of people campaign for that in 2023 elections. A lot of people have constantly spoken about that. But nothing, as we speak today, has been done. And I don't think this National Assembly will do anything about it. I want us to talk about money, the role money played in these by-elections, not by-elections, across board and across every political party. Should we go and be keeping money down for 2027 elections? Is that the case now? Sumner? Oh, okay. So, I mean, I was just talking about the role money played in this. And maybe next week we'll get a chance to interact with Sumner even further about this. And this is not only any political party's thing. It's across all political parties. And like I was saying before, if we do not push laws forward to the National Assembly and need to be passed and President assented, that the results uploaded on the IRF, that's from the polling unit to the IRF, can be justiciable. If we wait for results to go to Coalition Center, take whatever you get in the next elections. I will never put my leg down and say, we'll have it fairly. Because INEC themselves, in their thinking, brought about the alternative of IRF to be able to have a level of credibility. But we've heard of it. You are hearing glitches happen again. We're just joking with ourselves. And people are being bought. And today, compared to 2023 election, money has more value than it used to have before. In the sense that people are poorer now, they are hungrier, so they will easily collect the money. If that is not done, let's forget about 2027 elections. And whoever emerges will just emerge. It will be on record. Right today's day, it will be on record that I said it, and it will happen. Just like I predicted, leading up to 2023 elections, that hope we will not hear about glitch, hope we will not hear about shenanigans on election day, and everything I said happened. Sumner, like I said, let's talk about the role money played. But the point I also made was that if we don't make the use of IRF justiciable, put it in the law, let's forget 2027 election in terms of integrity. You might agree with me or disagree with me, but as far as I'm concerned, that's it. And I don't think it will happen. I do not think this National Assembly will pass laws around making IRF justiciable. That's my take. What do you think?
Well, lawmakers have been pressured to actually do this because we have to return confidence to the electoral process so that if the winner emerges, we wouldn't have a situation whereby you do not have the winner having the confidence to be able to go about and say, look, I won this election like we had, during the outcome of the 2023 general election where the president could not really feel super confident of this winning because of the gaps that were noticeable. So INEC should make the victory victorious in court for whoever wins the election so that the person can go about with some air of confidence that, yes, he or she won these elections outright. And we should take note that, yes, government parties would always have advantage over opposition. And the opposition should know that this electoral outcome, for example, in these elections, this by-election, is one that tells them what? That they have to sit up. You can't just go about saying the APC is rigging, APC is doing this, and APC is doing that without really voting. Without really canvassing for people to come out and vote. When did you see the party leaders going out to go and canvass for their candidates? It was just like 2 days before the election. Peter Obi, Nasir Rufai, and all of that. We didn't even see Atiku Abubakar going out and all of that. So they should know that the elections are going to be very, very serious business. If they want to hit back at the governing APC, they have to do more. And moreover, some of these people are from PDP and they know the kind of election meetings that they used to have in those days when they are going into election. So it's not going to, the APC is not just going to sit down there and allow them to just have this ultimate prize. They would have to pay the price to plan seriously. And that's why we are saying that the APC too must create the environment that will make the election to be conducive in such a way that anyone who emerges winner will have that confidence, including President Bola Tinubu, so that this time around, if he does emerge winner in the second term, he will have the confidence that he actually won the election outright. But our lawmakers need to be pressured over and over to ensure that these provisions of IREV and all of that are put in the Constitution, in the Electoral Act in such a way that it will boost voter confidence. Because the way things are going, honestly, I don't see us having the numbers that we got. Don't forget in the last election, we registered over 90 million voters. But how many of them came out for the election? There's a tendency that we may even have an electoral turnout of 25% nationwide if care is not taken ahead of the next election.
This analysis continues with a focus on the broader implication for Nigeria's electoral processes. The conversation underscores the concern about vote buying with instances of money being openly distributed at polling units. This is a serious issue that undermines the integrity of our elections. Sumner Sambo rightly points out that this is not just a problem for the party, but a systematic issue across the political divide. The discussion also brings up the performance of the INEC and the lingering issues with the BVAS machine and the IRF portal. These are some challenges we saw in the 2023 general election, and it is concerning that they are still prevalent. It raises the question of whether our electoral reforms are having the intended impact and if INEC is truly ready to conduct free and fair and credible elections. Now, for my take on all this, what we've just watched is a clear and concise breakdown of a much larger issue in Nigerian politics. Sumner Sambo's analysis is spot on. The dominance of the ruling party in by-elections is a recurring theme, and it often feels like a preview of the power dynamics we can expect in general election. The issue of money in politics is a cancer that we seem unable to cure. The fact that vote buying can happen so brazenly in presence of security and electoral officials is a damning indictment of our system. It turns our democracy into a marketplace where the highest bidder wins and the will of the people is sidelined. Furthermore, the repeated failure of INEC to seamlessly use the technology they introduced is deeply troubling. The BVAS and the IREV were meant to be a game changers to bring a new level of transparency and credibility to our elections. But when we still hear about glitches and failures to upload results in real time, it erodes public trust. Looking ahead of 2027, these by-elections serve as a stark warning. The opposition parties need to do more than just complaining about rigging. They need to build grassroots structures, connect with electorate and present a compelling alternative. Crying foul after the fact is not a strategy for victory. For the ruling APC, While they may celebrate this victory, they should also be wary. A win in a by-election does not always translate to win in a general election. The Nigerian electorate is becoming more discerning, and if the current economic hardship and security challenges persist, they may face a very different outcome in 2027. Ultimately, the responsibility for credible elections lies with all of us: INEC, the political parties, the security agencies, and the citizens. We must demand more from our leaders and institutions to ensure that our votes truly count. That's all the time we have for you for now on Oba's Trending Gist. What are your thoughts on the by-election results? Do you think they are a sign of things to come in 2027? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of issues that matters. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.